Welcome to our panel discussion, How Digitalization is Driving Customer Experience in the Logistics Sector, with esteemed experts. After the Industrial Revolution and the development of the standard container and ocean freight, digitalization seems to be the next game changer for the global economy and therefore logistics. New and old market players are using the potential of digitalization to increase the efficiency and transparency. But how does this affect the customer experience? Directly from the DHL Innovation Center in Troisdorf, Germany, here is our moderator, Marianna Evenstein.
Hello and welcome to DHL Talk. My name is Marianna Evenstein, and on behalf of DHL Global Forwarding and Freight, it's my pleasure to be moderating today's conversation on the digital transformation in logistics. Around the world, the digital transformation is having an ever greater impact on people's lives and also on how companies do their work. And that's true no matter what the sector is. With digitalization, enterprises can benefit from increased efficiency, lower costs, reduced risk, and also improved competitiveness. And for people, it means staying more connected, working more safely, and hopefully also enjoying more quality of life. In today's talk, we would like to focus on how the digital transformation in logistics impacts the customer experience, and also how it is leading companies in the logistics sector to take a more customer-centric approach. I'm now pleased to introduce the members of our expert panel. Joining us from Magdeburg is Professor Dr. Julia Arlinghaus. She holds the Chair for Production Systems and Automation at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering at Otto von Guericke University in Magdeburg. At the same time, she heads the Fraunhofer Institute for Factory Operation and Automation, also in the city of Magdeburg in Germany. And her research focuses on digital production systems, factory automation systems, and the planning of digital transformation processes for industry. So welcome, Julia. Also with us today from Frankenthal is Frauke Heistermann. She is co-founder and managing partner at AXIT.capital, which is a venture capital firm investing in innovative logistics solutions and startups with a focus on digitalization. And prior to that, she founded a cloud-based supply chain platform herself and successfully sold it to Siemens Logistics. So welcome to you, Frauke. All the way on the other side of the Atlantic, joining us from Washington, D.C., I'm pleased to say hello to Kevin L. Jackson. He is a globally recognized thought leader, industry influencer, and founder and author of the award-winning Cloud Musings blog. Now, Kevin has been recognized as a top 5G influencer and a top 50 global digital transformation thought leader. And he also provides strategic consulting and integrated social media services to leading international companies. So hello to you, Kevin. And last but not least, in person in the studio with me is Thomas Grunau, and he is Global Head of Business Strategy and Digitalization at DHL Global Forwarding and Freight. And as a digitalization expert, Thomas plays a pivotal role in driving forward the digital strategy and development of digital services, such as the new DHL one-stop customer platform, My DHLi. So hello, Thomas. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you here. And I would actually like to begin with what might be a somewhat critical question, because logistics has often been regarded as one of the least developed sectors when it comes to digital transformation. Is that still true today? Maybe we can begin with Frauke. What is your assessment on this?
Well, Marianna, I must say that it took really quite a while until logistics has recognized that digitalization is a must-have. A lot of companies started just by waiting and seeing what others are doing, but that's not an option in the digital age. So, and maybe in addition, it's a special German phenomenon that new technologies or software, they are not embraced. They are often regarded very critically. We see the problem first and then maybe the chance. So if you ask me for the status now, I would say it is mixed. there are logistics service providers who well understood that they need to transform, that they need to change their culture, that they need to push innovation. But I also see a lot of companies where digitalization is not yet really an issue. It's not a CEO topic. And from my perspective, it must be a CEO topic. So they really stick in the past. And that's critical from my perspective.
And Thomas, what's your take? Do you agree with Frauke's assessment?
Well, I think the logistic industry was actually quite behind realizing that digitalization is a must. But you can see over the last couple of years, I would say starting around 2012, 2013, 2014, when more and more logistics startups actually showed up, that there was a development. And startups definitely played an important role so that the industry giants and large players actually realized that they have to change and that they have to embark on the digital journey.
Well, one of the things that, of course, has given a real boost to digitalization, whether we like it or not, has been the COVID-19 pandemic. How has that impacted the state of digitization in logistics, and especially looking at the customer experience? I know a lot has changed in the last 12 months in this area. Maybe that's a question for Kevin?
Yes, thank you very much. The past year has really been an awakening for many when it comes to technology in general. The fact that we weren't able to even be in the same room. We had to rely on technology in order to communicate and to talk, and business globally had to figure out how to recreate their business processes using this technology. And especially when people weren't able to be in the office, these electronic collaboration technologies became a lifeline to every business. And as normal, people really don't like change, but they were forced to change and to adopt and adapt to the reality of life.
All right, you say people don't like change, and now we were forced to change in many areas of our lives. So what have been some of the most positive changes that we have seen when it comes to the digitalization of logistics just in the last year or so? Julia?
Well, one positive fact is indeed that people got interested in logistics, right? Everyone. My students suddenly love logistics, even my parents and my grandparents do. Everybody wants to understand why we ran out of toilet paper and tomatoes, and very recently out of vaccines and also microchips. So that is a positive thing. And of course, it also gave a push to digitalization of administration, as also Kevin just said. And this will definitely pay off in the long run. And we also saw that it gave a push on digitalization in the warehousing and distribution center environments. For example, contactless identification, measuring, documentation, that all developed very, very fast. It gave a rush on e-commerce. We all know that. And beyond all that, supply chains also in the future will stay complex, and they will stay global, and we will further need just in time. We will further need this complexity. And with all that, we also got a new understanding of the importance of transparency, also on reliability. And well, the new term that everyone uses is resilience. And also here we understand that we can only achieve that when we go and digitalize.
You touch upon a few interesting things about how customers now expect even more from logistics providers. I'd like to hear perhaps some more detail about that. So we all want our toilet paper to be delivered on time, and we want overnight delivery, and we want everything to be correct in our order. How has the digital transformation then really changed customer expectations when it comes to logistics? Maybe Thomas, you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, when we look at the global forwarding and freight business, it's obvious that there are huge supply chains, and the COVID definitely was a challenge because we saw that it was, of course, of utmost importance to ensure that these supply chains are kept running. With less passenger flights, for example, the capacity in the market was, of course, heavily reduced. And also carriers, large carriers, actually reducing their sailing schedule. So the capacity in the market was less. And the forwarders, also us, the DHL Global Forwarding, of course, it was our responsibility to still ensure that the supply chains were running. And when it comes to the digital transformation, if you look at this, I mean, we did our homework starting many years ago, because otherwise we would have not been able to support the business of our customers during these difficult times. But at the same time, it requires not only digital transformation and digital capabilities, but also, of course, the core, which is really enabling logistics and moving goods as such.
All right, so there's two things going on. We have, through the pandemic, even more so, more demand on logistics providers, customers expecting more things to be delivered. They want them delivered quickly, and yet the logistics companies are dealing with disruptions to supply chain and reduced mobility. So this is perhaps where digitalization plays an even more important role. But I'm wondering, do logistics providers themselves have what it takes to drive the digital transformation within their own operations, or do they need to rely on external disruptors to really push things forward? Maybe Kevin, you can tackle that question.
Well, great. One of the things that all industries, not just logistics, have to deal with is the consumerization of information technology, the consumerization of IT. People expect what they want when they want it. So the freight forwarding customers aren't any different. And much of this has to do with enhancing communication. And you can no longer take the fact that someone's not physically there to blame the inadequacy of your organization. You have to be able to communicate with your customer and with your business partners through whatever channel that they choose and at whatever time that they want to. So you mentioned the transparency, or that was mentioned. I think Dr. Julia Arlinghaus mentioned that transparency was really important. But even more important is that visibility into what's happening, and the ease of communications with their service provider. So this is really changing the expectation, the fact that if we want our show to be on at the right time, well, we want our package to be there. We want to know in advance. We don't want to be waiting. That communication is critical.
Okay, so communication key, but I still would like to put the same question maybe to Frauke. Do logistics providers have what it takes to drive this change process towards greater digitalization, or is it going to take external disruptors?
Yeah, and I would like to start to answer the question, what does it take for a logistics service provider to do successful transformation, successful digitalization? And unfortunately, I think I need to go back to basics, because there is often a lack starting at the data quality. starting off having good master data. So I think that being able to transform also means that they need to do still some homework in improving the data quality, because with a lack of data or bad data, we can't do AI, we can't do modern software. That's one thing. The other thing in your question, what does it take, and do they have that, what it takes or what it needs, is a change in attitude, having an open mind towards new technologies, being brave, try often and fail early if something does not go like we expect. And these are a lot of things, and I call them basics, but they are still important to be done before we really can start successful digitalization. And then we can, if we have that, we can do the digital strategy, which means what do we want? What do we want with digitalization? Do we want to improve the revenue of the logistics service provider? Do we want to have operational excellence? So what is our aim we want to reach? And concerning your questions for external disruptors, I think they are very good because they distribute somehow the existing players out of their comfort zone. And getting out of the comfort zone is always very good if you want to innovate. There must be a pain point, but I think external disruptors, they support us to come to our pain point and to change.
Thomas, how open are you and your company to external disruptors? Do you agree with Frauke's arguments that it really takes someone on the outside to shake things up, and that what's also key, which she also underscored, is that it takes a change of mindset? Is there going to be someone from outside who can change attitudes within the company, or do you believe that that's something that needs to come from within?
I mean, yes, to a certain extent, it takes impulse from the outside. So, of course,
does your boss know about that?
Yes, yes. My boss knows about that. And if you look at it, I mean, we at DHL Global Forum, we went really on a long journey. We started this many, many years ago. And as we heard, master data is important, getting your data in shape, especially on a global scale. If you're a global player, right? In the past, we had only local systems. Now we are working with a global TMS, everything connected. We have the information at our fingertips. And that enables us and then to actually get also new knowledge on board, to be able to increase the customer experience by providing systems that are easy and intuitive, that our customers actually like to use, like My DHLi. And towards this journey to get to this point, and also we had to be very brave because we set quite an ambitious target where we wanted to go. So we had a vision where we want to end up with. And of course, this can't take years because the time is moving quite quickly. And we have launched My DHLi over a year ago, or roughly a year ago, May 2020. And of course, we had a lot of learnings in the beginning. And it was for some parts of the organization, of course, also a stretch. But by moving fast, by learning quickly, also getting the customer feedback, this helped us to improve the system. And this is now that after 12 months, we actually see more features, new functionalities that also enable our customers to do more.
Well, you just touched upon this. It's not just the external disruptors or a change in attitudes. It actually requires many new skills that both employees and also the customers have to learn. But I'd like to actually just start at least with the skills that logistics providers have to make sure that their employees have. Julia, what would you see as the most important capabilities that logistics providers have to be able to demonstrate to really succeed at this digital transformation? Where is more learning required?
Yeah, we already see the trend that logistics service providers will overtake more and more value-adding services. And when I was a student, I was told the 4PL business model, that is just a theoretical one. And today we already see that logistics service providers are really integrating and are planning and controlling supply chains for their customers in retail and in also in industry. So that is really an interesting development. So the tasks are getting even more complex, and we have more and more additional services that require also, let's say, the basis, and Frauke has already mentioned it, right? We need operational excellence, we need data management, but we also need high IT skills and capacities in IT to manage all the interfaces. And to manage these additional services, let it be risk management or the resilience management, as mentioned before. So I think the core skill that all companies will need is the skill of lifelong learning. So we cannot assume that everyone can stay with the task that he or she has learned when he or she left school or university, but we have to develop. We also have to adapt the educational systems. I'm fully convinced of that. We need good IT and big data management. We have heard that before because it's the basis for artificial intelligence applications. And we also need knowledge on business models, right? When we have all that knowledge, we have to create new business models on it. And I think the most important thing is involving people, making people or joining this drive. And that means that we as managers and also as researchers, we have to connect the different departments, different companies, different people. So speaking different languages and translation is maybe the biggest thing here.
Yeah, and I can see that both Frauke and Kevin were nodding in agreement to what Julia was saying. So I'd like to get to both of you. Maybe we can start with Frauke. How do you see the skills and capabilities that logistics providers have to make sure that their people have in order to keep up with the digital transformation? What does it take?
Yeah, I agree to what Julia just mentioned. And just let me add maybe one thing. This is the ability of logistics service providers to collaborate with their partners along the supply chain. Because if you look at a global supply chain starting in China and maybe ending in Hamburg, there are really 1,000 different stakeholders who need to be integrated. And since I'm in logistics, and that's really a while, I see that logistics always takes over more responsibility. That's great to manage the whole supply chain. But therefore, it's really important to collaborate, to be open, to work together with other partners, to exchange data and not sitting on the own data and trying not to share them. So I think collaboration, openness to others, openness to share data, that's also very, very important.
And Kevin, your thoughts?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. But although in supply chain and logistics, we seem to always be focused on things, we can't forget that the humans are what's important. So this continuous collaboration across the previously established workflow silos is paramount. But it's the communications skill set also has to extend to omnichannel communications with the customers, which are people, and with the external business partners, which are people, via text, video, audio, analog and digital. Providers need to be accessible by people through whatever channel that the other party chooses.
Well, something else that I think was mentioned just before, the importance of IT now. And what's interesting is that we are seeing recently a growing number of IT providers who are entering the logistics market. And of course, they have the advantage of understanding the technology side of things very, very well. They're also used to being extremely customer focused. So I'm wondering, do these IT companies now pose a serious competitive threat to the more traditional logistics providers? I guess that would be a good question for you, Thomas.
Yes. Well, if you look at it, I mean, a lot of these IT providers underestimate the complexity, as also Frauke mentioned, the enormous amount of players in the whole logistics chain, and the complexity also by different kind of local regulations. And this is just tremendously driving the complexity. And so if you just work on one trade lane, if you take Asia, US, for example, that is maybe able to do something to handle. But it requires really a global network to deal with all the different regulations and also to have the people on the ground to ensure that the goods are actually moving. And therefore, it's a combination out of technology together with people. I mean, we are still a people business, and I mean, still with the standardization of data and to be able to connect to each other, it still requires that the goods are being moved. I mean, when we are talking about freight, it is not a small parcel. It's basically something that needs to be moved and that needs to be taken care of. And this is usually done by people. And so our colleagues need to work with the data. They need to be in touch with their customers and ensure that the communication is flowing, enabled by technology, enabled by systems like MyDHLi, which gives a higher transparency to our customers. But at the same time, it is required that our people interact with the customers and that they are still there to actually deliver the service.
All right, so it sounds like, Thomas, you're not worried that these IT companies are going to pose a serious competitive threat to the more traditional logistics providers. Is he right? Maybe Julia, what's your assessment?
Yeah, I fully agree with Thomas and also with Frauke that startups and also IT companies can give a great impulse for logistics service providers. But at the end, it's also a lot about process knowledge, about customer knowledge, and about doing real operational work. So I think cooperation, again, is the key to solve this issue and to really develop great new applications of great technologies.
I do want to get Kevin's thoughts on this too, because I see him nodding as well. Kevin, did you want to add something?
Yes, I think the key to logistics is reliable, verifiable, and digital information. This is why technologies like blockchain are proving themselves critical to supply chain operations. But it's, as many have said already, it's the people that have to be able to interpret that data into real information so that the communications flow because of the complexities of logistics and freight forwarding.
And now, Frauke, I know you mentioned this already, but you've sort of seen both sides. You co-founded the digital logistics platform back in 1999, I believe we said, and nowadays what you do is investing in brand new startups. So do you agree with the rest of our panelists that, you know, IT companies, no matter how high tech they are, they really cannot compete completely with the traditional logistics providers, or should they be worried a little?
Yeah, you know, my answer must be no, I do not agree.
Okay.
As founder of a digital supply chain platform, but I would like to explain it because what Thomas mentioned is right, that the logistics service providers, they have got the people and there must be someone having the assets, the transportation assets to do all those shipments. But my point is that company who is in the driver's seat, who has got the contact to the customer. And this could be for sure an IT company who has got customer-centric thinking in its mind and digitalization in its mind. And look at Airbnb. They have got the customer contact, but they have no assets. They have no own hotels. Or Uber, when they started, they had no assets, but they had the contact to the customer, and they had the ability to create very good, very smooth, very smart services where the customers are really keen on. And this is what I see if there are external IT companies coming into the logistics business and acting as a 4PL, having no assets, but offering to the customer great services, then that can be really competitive to the classical logistics service providers.
Does anybody want to respond to Frauke's argument? I mean, Thomas, how would you respond to that? Or maybe I should put the question in a different way. So that being said, maybe what are the main things that traditional logistics providers can and should learn from these IT companies or these startups?
Yeah, maybe I can answer this. Well, I mean, one thing is key, and that is something that we have learned over the last, let's say, 24, 36 months, is that we need to put ourselves into the perspective of the customer, and that we don't think about our expert knowledge of forwarding, but make logistics so easy to understand. Also, when we look at how is the customer perceiving the information that he's receiving, so that he can also take the right learnings out of the information or take the right actions. Yeah? I mean, at the end, we are still the service provider, so it's our obligation to make sure that the goods are arriving in time and in the right condition. But if you look at it, it is also important that we understand how it's being perceived by the customer. Going back to the question in regards to the IT companies, if you look at it, I mean, they are also dependent on the information that they receive by then the service providers that actually deliver the service. And there we come to the data standards. Currently, when we look into the industry, we see that there is not the one data standard, that there is just one definition of certain estimated time of arrivals, etc. And you get different kind of information, and it's very, very difficult to interpret this. So if you have multiple providers, that is something which is very, very difficult. And if it's just being sent over to a customer via an IT system, that of course doesn't help the customer a lot. And this is something that we of course are overcoming with the MyDHLi platform. Now also introducing the freight services so that we have air, ocean, and freight in one unified platform, so that the customer is really kind of getting his information in one single place, and that he can see it across 3 transport modes. And driving it further, of course, in the next couple of years, where we will be able, hopefully, to integrate more and more services, to integrate more functionalities that will help our customers to even better understand what the status of their shipment is.
When you talk about, oh, sorry, did somebody want to add something to that? I think it was Kevin. Yep, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
No, I was just commenting in that the value of services is really being driven across every industry by the merging of previously distinct industry verticals. And MyDHL is a perfect example of how leadership is important in an organization. Organizational leaders must aggressively lead their teams in this future world of merging industry verticals, the merging of information, and being able to accelerate their business via access and collaboration. So yes, it's important to understand the differences, how you can take information input from multiple sources and then deliver that to the customer in an easy and consumable and understandable fashion.
I would just like to follow up on what Kevin just said, that it has to be easy and understandable, because, I mean, you talk about adding more services, adding more options, and a new platform, and a new website, and all of these things. But I think, you know, this is sometimes for ordinary consumers too much. And, you know, they just don't want this kind of complexity. They're maybe simple people who just want things to work. So how does the logistics sector ensure that as things become more digitalized and you're expanding the types of things that you can offer your customers, that you still manage to keep it simple enough and straightforward to appeal to the broadest type of person or customer. Like, can my grandma use it? Like, that's what I also want to make sure, that even grandma is able to navigate all of these things. How do we make sure that that's also taken into account? Maybe we can hear from Julia first on this.
Yeah, first of all, I fully agree to the importance of what the other said, right, on the importance of the customer interface, order management, and also leadership. And what is behind all that service is, of course, very powerful operational systems. And here also we need digitalization, right, when it comes to very fast processes in distribution centers, for example, robot-based, or we use artificial intelligence on predictive maintenance, because also, and that has also brought Corona to us, the cost pressure and the pressure on efficiency and operational excellence has even increased in these times. So that is the one side. And the other thing that you have asked, right, is the simplicity or the solutions. How do I make them accessible to the customers? I mean, what we have seen in the logistics sector and the CAP market, I mean, is so many powerful services like tracking and tracing that made me sit 2004 already on my doorstep waiting for the next Harry Potter to arrive. And then we are already used to delivery windows, and even my grandmother is now happy that she knows exactly when the parcels will arrive, and we can agree on where we want to have our parcels be delivered, right? And also Kevin already said that you can do it from any device to any location. And what I see here is that also the older people are getting used to dealing with simple apps and using on their smartphones. And this is now also influencing even the industry sector, right? Because people are so used from all the CAP market to these simple and easy and clever solutions that they want it in their industrial work as well. So I think we are here already in a very good way.
Does anyone want to add something to that?
Yeah, I would like, Marianna, because this question to make it easy is really, really interesting. But on the other hand, to make complex processes in logistics easy to the customer is well, it's not easy. Yeah? And I think customers, on the one hand, from the B2C sector, they are used to very nice and smart apps, and they are good looking. And then they come into the B2B business, and then they see ugly software, a lot of fields to enter, and nothing about user experience and easy usability. So I just want to say that for logistics service providers who really manage a very complex process, it is hard to make that interface to the customer easy. And but the one who makes this possible, who thinks really from the customer point of view, they will win the race. But there is a nice quotation from Goethe, the famous writer. He said, "Please apologize that I write such a long letter. I had no time to make it short." And this is what I want to say. Yeah? It takes time. It takes a lot of effort to make those complex solutions in the background looking easy for the customer.
Absolutely.
Thomas, and how do you go about striking that balance between capabilities, something very fast, and also accessible to ordinary people?
Yeah, I mean, we in the forwarding business, of course, are not dealing with private customers. These are the colleagues from other divisions. But of course, if our systems are so easy to understand, yeah, that basically a private user, a private customer could use it because they understand what this means. This is basically the best prerequisite, the best proof point for our business customers, because private and business life is more and more melting. And also what we see in the private life, I mean, as you mentioned, Airbnb, yeah? I mean, a lot of our customers ask themselves, why do you make it, or why did you make it so complex in the past? Why can't it be easy? And I think that what we see also with the uptake and the resonance that we get with My DHLi, that customers are realizing that this is now actually possible. Also with the follow and share concept, where we basically took social collaboration, yes, things that they know from their daily life to share and to follow, yeah, a concept that just is being applied to logistics, where I can follow my shipment so that I get notifications and I can share this shipment, because I have a lot of players in the whole supply chain that would be interested to get a view on that information. And so this piece of social collaboration, just to make it so simple that it's easy to use and to make it very simple, is hard work. It looks so simple, but it is really, really hard work. And the large teams are sitting there and trying to find basically the golden nugget, how to put it in place.
Well, something else that seems to be rather hard for logistics providers in Germany, but also more broadly in Europe, is selling their new digital services and solutions. It seems maybe it's a very different kind of mentality than we see in the United States. Maybe Kevin can tell us something about that. So why is it so difficult for European logistics providers, or specifically German logistics providers, to sell their digital services and solutions to customers? What is standing in their way?
Well, I'm not sure that it is a German or really a European thing. I think it's more a human thing. The adoption and proliferation of digital services is being driven by change, and the fact that change is accelerating. And as we said earlier in this discussion, people don't like change. So when you have to force your industry to move, you have to force yourself to adopt change, and you have to actually accept the fact that you're going to be changing more and more things faster and faster. Another area where really leaders can't depend upon the past. You can't say because it happened and it worked in the past, it will work in the future. We are in the new normal, and the new normal is constant accelerating change.
Maybe we can hear some thoughts from Frauke on this.
Yes, I would love to answer, because when I founded that digital platform, I led sales for 10 years, and my experience was that we always we always try to sell technology to the customer, but he's not interested in technology. He's interested in the solution, and it helps if we sell more imagination. Yeah, if I build a house and I want to sell it, it doesn't make sense to tell the client or the customer what the architect did in detail. But I need to explain how cozy and warm it will feel in the winter to live in that house, or in the summer to see the flowers. And the same is with digitalization. We need to sell the whole solution, the benefit, the advantages. And it's not so easy to really come to the advantage if you do not have listened to the customer before very carefully. What are his problems we need to solve? And if we learn to listen and to understand, then we can sell, because then we have detected what is the benefit of that case, and how can I help my customer to become more successful based on that solution. And that's a different perspective we need to take over to really sell it successfully.
Okay, so the focus should be on the soft advantages and not so much on the technology aspect to appeal to customers. Julia, do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. I think I think it's, first of all, it's not only a German problem, but I think the German, also the European or industrialized country market is here falls into the different groups, right? There are some also digital leaders in the world of logistics service providers, and they already sell solutions. And then there's, of course, a group that is, let's say, neglecting or ignoring the digital part, and maybe they want to skim a little bit of the market, and then they prepare to drop out soon, or otherwise they will be pushed out. But I see that there's a very big group of logistics service providers that is still waiting and looking, and they are really starting the topic of digitalization. And of course, most, as also we do, they start learn on technologies, right? So, and it's really important for us, or for us as Fraunhofer, to support these companies to get quickly to these solutions, and because I'm fully convinced that digitalization, also logistics, is not an end to itself, but it should always solve a problem, help the company to also reach their goals better. And in this, when we manage to do this, then this will also automatically involve people, and they will also push forward the change that is necessary.
And Thomas, where do you see the challenges in selling your new digital services and solutions to customers? Like when you're trying to appeal to them, where is it the most difficult?
Well, we try to build up excitement. And I think that is something which is very, very important, and to emotionalize also. We are in a B2B environment, but as we said, we are also humans. We don't just look at it factual. It's also, of course, something that if it touches you, if it actually connects to you, then you actually have already achieved quite a lot. And I think we talk about the customer, and that is good. But what we also have to remember, because we are a fairly large organization and in regards to the change management, if we are successfully communicating with our customer, if we are able to emotionalize by our solutions, that is also touching our people. And then our people are getting pride, they're getting proud. And that helps actually then to drive also the performance, because they want to they want to make it a success. They understand the connection of the actual daily doing and how this is being displayed with the customer, because then they also have an understanding of what does that mean. And so the actual selling is, of course, going into the direction of the customer, but also plays a very, very important point in regards to our employees. And that's the reason why we take our employees onto this My DHLi journey, because it's very, very closely connected.
So I really like also what you just said about taking people on a journey, and also what Frauke mentioned. You're selling a house, but you don't really need to know all the technical details from the architect. You just want to see that it works, it's beautiful, it's comfortable, it's what I want, it's what I need, it appeals to me emotionally. And this also makes me think of something else, because I don't know if our viewers saw in the intro, we have a robot in here. This very funny looking robot at the DHL Innovation Center, Pepper. She can dance, she can sing, she can do all sorts of things. And I would like to ask about, in fact, this technology that makes Pepper able to respond to questions that we ask her in German. I didn't try English yet. Artificial intelligence, and how much is AI already being implemented by logistics providers? How much do we depend on it? And again, because we do want to focus on the customer experience, what do customers get out of it? Where are the benefits for them? I know who would like to tackle that first. I see Kevin smiling. You should see this robot. She's adorable.
Yes, I would like to really point out that we are seeing the merging of artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, so that organizations can interact with people in a better way. Why does Pepper have a head? Why does Pepper laugh? That's because Pepper is trying to provide a connect emotionally with people. So all of this is really about communications between the things and people, so that we can understand what's happening and envision what we want in the future. It's not about the technology. It's really about the people.
Julia, do you have any thoughts on that? I see you also smiling, which is always good.
Yeah, I just think, artificial intelligence solutions, they have so much potential. On the one side, of course, to cut our costs and to make our processes more efficient. On the other hand, to make our products better, right? They allow us to have completely new business models ranging from predictive maintenance-based things, financial services offered by logistics service providers, up to better forecasting methods that all help us to develop new products. And of course, also to know better our customers and to maybe have better bundles of services, to have additional services to offer. These are just great developments, and this will definitely pay off. On the other hand, it brings us back to the beginning of our discussion. We will need data, and data have to be in a good quality. And this time we also have to have high quantities of data. And we have to be very careful also with it. When we train our data, we have to carefully select algorithms or to develop new appropriate algorithms. And we have to always check if the algorithm is, and also the application, are still fitting each other. And there are many also ethical aspects that we have to consider when we think of where to apply artificial intelligence solutions.
And Frauke, where do you see the role of artificial intelligence for the digital transformation in logistics specifically?
I'm really keen on that topic because I see the high potential. Just imagine we could forecast disruptions in the supply chain based on weather data, based on strikes. We could foresee or we could forecast because we look at social media data, and then we could maybe predict that there will be a strike in a certain harbor, which will influence our supply chain. Or that the truck today will take longer because it is expected that that road, well, there will be ice rain or something like that. I think there is a huge potential to make supply chains more resilient, to help people who finally manage the supply chain to do it better and more reliable because of those data. But, and there is a big but, as Julia mentioned, we need the right data. And until all stakeholders along the supply chain are not willing to share data because they always think they are mine, and I'm the only person who is able to look at those data, we will not have the databases to do good AI. AI needs a huge database and a good database with qualified data. So companies need to think in cross-company processes, looking at partners and sharing data with them. Without that, AI will not work.
And Thomas, what is the role of AI at DHL?
Well, of course, it plays a very important role. And we are having tons of data also with our digitalization journey that we started many years ago. We are now in the position that we have the data structure so that we can actually make sense out of the data. And also in the development of MyDHLi, for example, we are using data, basically advanced analytics and artificial intelligence to improve our products. If you look at the MyDHL report, for example, we had in the past across customers over 30,000 different reports and different structures. And when we developed MyDHL report, we thought about, well, there must be a more easy way. Yeah? Why do we need to have it so complex? And then we used artificial intelligence and advanced analytics to actually understand what the structures of these 30,000 reports are. And we came out with 5 standard reports that basically covered really kind of 95% of all the reports. And so we took these 5 standard reports, made them as templates available for our customers in the new MyDHL report. And chatbots, all these kind of technologies, right, where we have natural language processing in place, where we can understand what's the behavior of the customer and can provide services that make it even easier to interact with MyDHLi. These are the things that we are applying. But not only that, if you look at, for example, the whole prediction of estimated transit times, or estimated time of arrivals. Yeah, we have so much data that we are working on services that will actually allow us to predict in a more precise way than the actual service provider that we use by air, by ocean, by trucking, to predict even better when the actual shipment is going to arrive, because we have the holistic view across all the customer, across all shipments, and that is something where all our customers will eventually benefit from.
I see we just have a few more minutes left to our talk. So before we wrap up, there is one last question that I would like to put to all of you. And that is, when we are thinking about the customer experience, what would be the most important advice that you would give logistics providers who are now in the process of implementing digital transformation strategies? So what would be the advice you would give them? What is the most important thing that they should think about, they should focus on, and the most important thing that they should do? Frauke is nodding, so I'll start with you.
Well, my advice would be, do not develop any innovation in an ivory tower. Talk to your customer, listen carefully, what is the real problem which should be solved? And after listen to the customer, and when you develop the solution, do it together with the customer and always ask in between, is it what you expect? Is it something where you really get excited about? And finally, because we all need to make revenue, are you willing to pay for that?
Kevin, do you consider that good advice?
I consider it excellent advice, but I also like to caution people not to be swayed by biases of the past. The future is all-encompassing. We have to understand that the marketplace that you're operating is becoming broader and broader. And there are so many differences in society that we have to leverage things like artificial intelligence and work out and avoid the biases that humans always place in the things that they build and things that they design. In the end, all of this technology is created by humans, and all humans have biases, but those biases can really prevent you from being successful in our joint future.
And now I'd like to put the same question to Julia.
Yeah, maybe building on what Frauke said before, I would add, make your processes excellent if they are not yet. If they are excellent, computerize them. So go from Industry 2.0 to Industry 3.0. And if you have already done so, then start digitalization, connect the digital and the physical world, and take people with you. Remember that it's always also people's business, and that they need new skills, that we have to take away anger, but also they should not be afraid of losing their jobs. I think that is also a very central aspect.
So Thomas, some very good advice for you as someone who's with a logistics provider. I'm not going to ask you to give yourself advice, but what I will ask you is to maybe share with us, what are the things that you're most looking forward to in the digital transformation at DHL? What are some exciting developments that you can tell us about that you're looking forward to?
Well, first of all, of course, I completely agree to what these three colleagues here have said. But I think when looking forward to it, I think that over the next coming years, we have with MyDHLi a excellent starting point to incorporate all the digital services that will be available on the market, and also to actually make use of the things that are going to come, the data standards that are going to appear across the industry. Just if we look at the DCSA in ocean freight, where we see that data is getting more and more integrated, more and more seamless. And that is something where we will benefit as a forwarder, but at the same time, of course, also our customers will benefit. But then, of course, also the new technology and possibilities. I mean, Kevin has mentioned blockchain. I mean, that is something that will also make a huge impact. And there, the Deutsche Post DHL Group is, of course, also very active and driving the agenda forward.
So thank you for that, Thomas. Thank you also to each of our other panelists for this really fascinating, inspiring discussion. And of course, also thank you to our viewers for watching. If you do want to learn more about digital solutions in logistics, or specifically about the digital strategy at DHL Global Forwarding and Freight, then please visit mydlhi.com. And of course, you can also check out the content on the landing page of the MyDLHI Digital Summit. So everyone, thank you once again for watching, and we hope to welcome you again to another DHL Talk very soon. Take care, everyone.